Happy Saturday, my dolly friends. It is Gina. Welcome to Little Midwest Reborns and Dolls. Before we get started, I want to invite you to please hit that like button, hit that thumbs up because YouTube really likes that. If you enjoy my content, please hit the notification bell so you won't miss anytime I upload a video. And if you're so inclined, please leave me a comment. I love to read the comments. In front of you, I have my beautiful Alyssa Inez. She is the Laura Sculpt from Bonnie Brown. I just adore this baby girl. She was a recent adoption for me. I adopted her from Tami over at Tater Tots Nursery. We will be doing a couple of different themes today and one tag. One of the themes, and some of them are a little bit, I'm a little behind, even though it's Saturday. I'm doing some things that I would have done on Friday had I had the time. So, better a day late than never at all. That's what I say. Okay, guys. So, and welcome to any of my new subscribers. It's wonderful to have you here. And to my regular subscribers, thank you so much for coming and watching and always returning, because you know I like to tell silly, corny jokes. You know that I can get lengthy, especially when I answer a tag, because I love to tell stories. So, and speaking of stories, I have a story I could tell you about something I did this morning that I was so proud of myself. My bathroom sink in my bathroom sometimes runs slow, and it often kind of clogs. And so I have this little bitty plunger, and I plunge, and it runs better, but then Anyway, this morning I worked, and I worked, and I worked, and I did it! It is running free now, and I'm so happy, and I cleaned my sink, and it's disinfected and nice and clean and shiny, and I just feel so good that turn on the water and it goes right down the drain. It's wonderful. So that's my story for today, my accomplishment for today. But Alyssa and I are here to do theme. One of the themes is Casual Fun Friday by Kitty and Tottie at Little Waddle Nursery. She is wearing a newborn size Just One U, and it is a casual little dress, but I love it on her. And so Alyssa is participating in that theme. Alyssa is also participating in Floral Friday, which is brought to us by Melissa over at Let's Play Dolls. This is a brand new dress. It has never been on any baby in my nursery. So she is participating in New Doll Clothes by Jay at J Dolls UK. So we have that covered. And we are also going to do Thankful Friday by Tami at Tater Tots Nursery. And this week what I am thankful for is that last night I kind of had an impromptu gathering with two new friends, and they are the daughters of a client that I take care of, and they invited me to go to dinner, and it was wonderful, and we really had a nice time and laughed and talked, and it was fun. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for this hobby. I'm thankful I have new subscribers. So those are the things I am thankful for. Now I'm going to move on to Suzanne's tag from Suzanne's babies, which is the teenage years. Number 1, did you consider yourself to be mod, a rocker, a skinhead, punk, or goth? Well, I don't know that I was any of those. And when I was in high school, we labeled people a little bit differently. There was your socialites or your preppies. There was, and mind you, this was in the 70s and very early 80s because I graduated in 81. So, and there were jocks, anybody who was an athlete of any type, cheerleader, they were the jocks. There was the burnouts. They always smoked cigarettes, and a lot of them smoked something that used to be illegal, but they smoked marijuana. And then there were the nerds, and they took calculus, and um, they did a lot of science things, and the chess club and the science club, and so I was not really in any of those groups, none of them. Um, but I hung around people from each group. So I guess I was just a regular high school student and I was pretty much accepted. Because nobody ever said, oh, you don't belong here, but they didn't really take me in. And I had my own group of friends that they were just like me. So, and we hung out together and had fun all the time, you know. So, but if there was something going on at school and I was with any of those groups, it didn't matter. So that's kind of where I was, and that's question number one. Okay, shoot. Number two. What kind of music were you into? I was into pop or easy listening. I liked Journey. I liked Styx. I liked Michael Jackson. I liked Gloria Estefan. I liked Fleetwood Mac. I liked Chicago. I did like the Beatles also and did listen to quite a bit of that, but that's because I'm one of the younger cousins and all of my older cousins listened to the Beatles and I got used to the music, so I rather enjoyed it. So yeah, I that's what I listened to. Number three, how many boyfriends or girlfriends did you have? Well, I had boyfriends. I'm gonna say, and I was not allowed to start dating until I was 16, but I'm gonna say, and if people I went out with more than 3 times, five. I had 5 boyfriends. 2 were very serious. The last one, the second one was became my first husband. The second serious boyfriend. Um, One of them, you know, he was my first serious boyfriend. So I had two. But I dated about 5 different people. Okay. What types of clothes did you wear? I wore Oxford shirts. I wore pleated skirts. I wore Dickies pants, which were kind of a dress slack. And they came in a myriad of different colors, so you could always match them with different blouses. I wore the smock top blouses. In fact, my mother made me two. One, I believe, was simply a floral pattern, if I'm remembering right. I really don't remember the second one as much because I didn't wear it as much as I wore. My mother had Holly Hobby material, and she made me a smock top out of that. Oh, and we wore bell bottoms, and I even had some elephant bell bottoms that covered your whole shoe. And we also wore the jeans that went all the way up to your waist. They were called high top jeans. I wore those. Um, so yeah, I that those were the types of clothes that I wore, and I always wore shoes, um, regular shoes, not heels or anything, but different kinds of flats or types that tied. I don't. Some for a little while, Oxford shoes kind of came back in, and I had some that were white with blue, and I had a pair that was white with black, and then I had a pair that was kind of a brown and then a brown, so or like a darker tan or like a dark brown and then like a lighter tan, and I wore those to school. So yeah, those were the kind of clothes that I wore. Did you have a favorite designer? Well, not really, but there was one designer that I really always loved her clothes. They were a little too expensive for me, but I did buy a couple of summer dresses, and it was Laura Ashley, and it reminded me of clothing from the 1800s because you had a plain background. It was kind of a calico background, and usually delicate little flowers and lace, and sometimes the collars were high neck, and I maybe a little puff sleeve, and then and a high neck, and sometimes it was lacy, or sometimes there was a pleated ruffle around it, and then I had a pink blouse that had a slightly puffed sleeve, and then it had that same type of ruffle around the cuff. And that was all by Laura Ashley. So I kind of liked her, but I only had a few pieces. I think I had like 3, because I had, those were, as my mom and dad would say, those are non-essentials. If you want it, honey, you do work part-time, you do go to, you went to school, and as long as you keep your grades up, you can go. As long as I had a C average, I could work. If it fell, I couldn't. And I always had above a C average. So, at any rate, they allowed, but I had to save my money from working if I wanted to buy something Laura Ashley. So, because they kind of bought our essentials for school, as far as clothing went, what they considered an essential item. But anything else that we just said, well, I'd like this, they said, that's fine, save your money. So that's how it went. Okay, number 6. Did your parents have strict guidelines about who you went out with? To an extent, yes. They always knew my girlfriends and knew their parents. For the gentlemen, the boys that I dated, they had to come inside the house and have at least a 10 or 15-minute chat with my parents. And they always wanted to know where we were going, who we were going to be with, and what time I was expected home. And then they were told too what time I had to be home. It says, did you have a time you had to be home by? Yes. That was number 7. Yes, I did have a time I had to be home. School nights, I had to be in by 10. On the weekends, I had to be in by 11. But my parents were flexible. Like, for example, I think we wanted to see Flashdance or something. My girlfriends and kind of a group of us were going to go see it. And the 7:15 show or whatever it was sold out. So we couldn't get in to see it. But there was another showing like at 9:15. So I knew I wasn't going to be home until after 11 o'clock because the movie would just be ending. So I either used the payphone at the theater because I always had money for a payphone, or if I was at a friend's house, we would call. And as long as I called my parents and explained the situation, which I would have called and said, the first movie was sold out. We'd like to go to the one at 9:15. May I go to the movie? And I think every time they said yes, and it was because they knew where I was and where I was going and what time and which movie. And since I called and told them I'd like to go and I would be late, they said, yeah, you can go. It's fine. So it wasn't unexpected. So they were flexible. They were flexible. Okay. Number 8, were you a moody teenager? Well, I have to laugh because most of you were so good and so well behaved, and you said, no, you weren't moody. Well, yes, I was a moody teenager. It wasn't allowed, like my mom would never put up with nonsense. I was never allowed to be the type of teenager that if I was frustrated with something that I could cry and stomp away from the dinner table and slam a door. That was not going to happen in my household, period. My dad wouldn't allow it. My mother was definitely not going to allow it. And so I didn't do that. But yeah, I didn't want to get up and go to school, and I hated mornings, and it was awful. And then I did suffer from severe PMS. So when I was in a lot of pain and hormones were really fluctuating, my parents were very patient with me. My mother was very patient. In fact, she took me to a doctor to make sure I was okay. And the doctor basically just said, make sure to try to get more exercise and do this and do that. And, and I thought, well, I'm on the track team and I'm doing this and I walk to school and I walk home and but at any rate, they always tried to help me. But yeah, I was a little moody. And I mean, even my friends in school, when I'd first get to school in the morning, I was always crabby. Now, I was happy by the end of the day in the afternoon, but I'm not a morning person. So, okay, number 9. How many times did you get your heart broken? Once. Once, my first serious boyfriend, when we broke up, my heart was shattered. And yeah, he really broke my heart. And what's strange is we are very good friends now, although he lives in a different state. But I have met his wife, I have met his daughters. He had met my late husband. He has he's met my children. He's only seen pictures of my grandson, but whenever he comes in town, we visit and we have a wonderful time. So, and we keep in touch over emails, occasional text message. Mostly we email. So it's just he and his wife and family, they live in Florida, although his girls are grown and moved out now, as are mine. But both of my children, but they were in the path of the latest hurricane in Florida. So I sent him a text message and asked if they were okay and safe and healthy. And, he did respond and say he really appreciated it. And yes, they were safe and healthy, and it wasn't as bad as he had expected. So yeah, we're still friends. We're still friends, but he did break my heart. And we have talked about that. One of his many visits, we have discussed how he broke my heart. So he knows. Anyway, and then number 10 is, was there someone you wanted to go out with but were never asked? Yes, there was. Usually it was someone that I kind of had a crush on throughout my high school years. But that didn't really affect me. My heart being broken, that affected me. But the not being asked, well, okay, so they didn't ask me. But what was funny is at our all-night party after high school graduation, I found out because several of the guys that were there had said, I've been wanting to ask you out since we were in freshmen or we were, sophomores, and I never did. And I always thought you were pretty, but I was kind of afraid you'd say no. And so I never asked. And I was like, why didn't you should have asked me? I would have said yes. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. So it was kind of funny to hear that after we graduated and this and that. So anyway, that I thought was funny. Okay, that is the end of Suzanne's tag there. I answered all the questions, and I know they're lengthy, and I thank you for sticking with me. But I always have to tell a story because I like to tell stories on my channel. And here is your bonus prize for sticking around and hearing my story. My neighbor gave me a new roof for free. They said it was on the house. Have a blessed and wonderful, safe Labor Day weekend, friends. Here in the USA, we are celebrating Labor Day. So a lot of people that normally have to go to work on Monday are actually off. It's an extended holiday for us. So please be safe at your barbecues or whatever you're doing. If you've traveled out of town, be safe and be careful. And remember that no matter what you're going through, God loves you and He's always there for you. Bye-bye, my dolly friends.